Hi, and welcome to Alaskan and Thailand. Here in the Hue Hin Beach this morning again, about 6:30 a.m. I got the camera turned around this way so you can look up this way today. Down that way is the mountain, and up here towards Cham, that way. Low tide again, lots of beach, beautiful morning, nice and cloudy. I don't like it too sunny too early. Sweating again right after my run, of course. But today I thought I'd talk to you about, should I move to a country just because it's cheap? I mean, is that a great idea just because you can live really, really cheap to move to somewhere like that? You know, that it can't, your finances are a big factor in where you're going to live, really. If it weren't, we'd all live in, Paris or wherever. No, I wouldn't. But, you know, finances plays a big part because we're all, we got our Social Security and it only goes so far. And we're going to try to go to a country that'll stretch that money as far as you can. Some consider Mexico, some, Southeast Asia, and, I don't know where else you could go and have a comfortable life, on a low budget. But there are some things to consider, not just finances. When you move, I talk to all these people that come from all over. I've always done this, whatever, even when the Philippines, before I even had a YouTube channel, I've always asked everybody when I see them if they were worldly traveler kind of guys. I always asked them, where do you like it the boat? What was the best country you've been to? Where do you like it? For my own information, trying to figure out where I want to go to, So I've always asked them, and I get different responses. But a lot of them are here, right where I am, right here. A lot of them say this place is the best place they've ever been. By far, I think, more than any other country. I get some people saying Cambodia. I get some people saying Vietnam. They like Da Nang better. Some people said they like Cambodia better. And so I'm over here in Thailand. And I want to give a shout out to Martin. He kind of inspired me to this for this video. He was the one I was asking, he was a worldly traveler around. He's living here in Hue Hin. Shout out to you, Martin. Uh, he he pointed out, I asked, where were you been? He'd been to Da Nang and Cambodia. And I said, oh, really? How did you like it? And where you like it? And apparently he's here, so he likes it here. I ain't saying he don't like it there, but uh, he was the one that said, Cambodia is really cheaper, and maybe even Da Nang is cheaper, but you really want to live there just because it's cheap, and that's kind of. I was thinking the same thing too, along the same lines. I ain't moving somewhere just because I can buy a coconut for a nickel. No, you're gonna need things like healthcare and stuff, and that's when you go through your list of things, you have these boxes. You have to check them, yes or no. You have to check whether that's important to you. And some of things are important to you, whether you realize it or not. Some of you guys are going to go just because the girls are easy and pretty there and they can have a big age gap. Is that a good thing? You're going to be living in a country. Another thing is you're living in a country that's impoverished. That's why the prices are cheap. It's because it's a poverty stricken country, and you're going to be there a rich man living around a bunch of poor people. Is that really a life you want to have too? Are you going to live around walking in and out of the stores with beggars every day? They're going to be hitting you up every day. There's no getting around it. And it's not their fault. It's just it's the way poverty is. It's right in your face when you're in it. You're getting the benefit of that cost savings, but sometimes it ain't worth it. And again, if you need health care, what are you going to do? That impoverished country probably don't have the best health care. That's probably why it's impoverished. Another part of the reason, the health care may not be suitable for what your needs are. If you need heart surgery or something, you ain't going to want to do it in Dumageddon. I guarantee you. You're going to have to go to a bigger city or get out of the where you are. So when you're considering your retirement place because it's cheap, consider, does it have health care? Am I going to be, what happens when I get sick there or hurt? Am I going to be taken care of? Are they going to throw me in a trike and bounce me halfway down the mountain to get to a doctor, and then that ain't even going to be, it's going to be substandard health care in some cases. I can't speak for Mexico or any of those places too. Maybe they have health care down there and they're cheap too. I don't know. Maybe I could be wrong. I haven't been many places, but from when my decision was made, I made sure to check on that health care. You got to have, language was one of the things too. I wanted to have that on checking on my boxes. I wanted to have English language, but in the end, I couldn't find it a suitability country that speaks English. So here I am in Thailand, and I guess it's time to learn some Thai. And there's enough English spoken around now. I got a few friends here and there. I can speak English. It's not such a problem as it was when you're first here. It was a problem. But here, as far as healthcare, we've got the greatest healthcare around, and I can testify to it. I've had surgery here, and I had my teeth fixed here, and both were excellent service, A1, number one, and low price, very low price, very low prices. So and then around here we have the low price, but without the actual poverty in your face. I don't see beggars in my face like I did in Dumaguete. You go to Dumaguete, you walk to Lee Plaza, if you're trying to get in and out of them stores anywhere in that boulevard down there, you're going to get hit up with beggars and poor people, and they're seriously in need. Not their fault, like I said, but they're gonna be in your face. Here the prices are low, the healthcare is good, and I don't see the poverty in your face like it is. And I know the wages ain't that much higher, but it's just that everybody more seem to be working. Perhaps that could be it. The economy is better for sure with the tourism and all the hotels, the big hotels, just on the beach. It's a very well civilized, low price country area. This area anyway. I ain't gonna say the whole Thailand or anything. It gets expensive. And don't let me get you wrong, these beautiful big hotels are 5-star. They're expensive too. You can still get a 5-star hotel for 400 a night around here, so it ain't all that cheap. But generally, your day-to-day basics, my food, my electricity, and my place to live it's all cheap. And I don't really get the feeling I'm living in a substandard third world country at all. I would say, honestly, this town is better than any town I grew up in, really. I'm sure, my dad made more than the Thai father here did, working back then, or does now, but hey, these people seem to have it made. They have life. I don't, like I say, the first thing would be to show up as when you're in an impoverished country, that's another thing to consider. You're going to be dealing with crime too, where you've got low prices, you got low wages, and you got high poverty, meaning, so you're going to have to fight for your money and maybe your life someday. So that's something to consider, and that can be worrisome. Like around here, I don't see any crime. So that tells me right there that the people must be well off enough to where they're not desperate enough to need to steal. Of course, it could be the Buddhist culture too, which has a lot of influence on them and keeps them, from straying, and I keeps them good people. I think that has a lot to do with it. I believe it really probably does. But anyway, I thought I'd talk about that because I remembered back to a conversation I had with Martin, and then when I asked him where the best place to stay, he pointed out, "Do you want to stay somewhere just because it's cheap, And if you can afford it, I would say upgrade your living as much as you can afford to do it, And if you have to live in Cambodia, I ain't saying no. You guys in Cambodia are going to jump me and saying no, it's probably better. And I don't know. I haven't been there. I'm not going to judge it. But for an example, are you going to live in someplace, even in Vietnam or off into the jungles of, Philippines? Are you going to be happy there? And because it's low price and you can buy a coconut for a nickel, and you're going to eat fish and rice with the locals because there ain't no restaurants or stores around either. So keep that in mind. So yeah, there's some things to consider, and there's a few boxes you should have to check that are major boxes that you really need to check, is like the healthcare one. You got to make sure your cheap place of living, your beautiful girl, wherever island she lives, how remote, if you're getting on in age, even if you ain't, you're eventually going to need healthcare somewhere someday. And you probably ought to be near it and not in a real impoverished situation in a far off land. It might not turn out so well for you. But anyway, that's my thought for the day. Inspired by Martin, I mean, his thought for the day. And I'm glad he shared it with me, because that is a consideration for those of you that are moving over. Do find a place where you can, it's not too impoverished to where you're going to be uncomfortable and at risk crime, and just, when you need medical care, you'll be at risk too. So there are a few things you guys want to consider if you're getting ready for your retirement. I had to consider those seriously myself, and I think I made a pretty good choice so far. I'm always open to better situations, but I'll keep my ears open. But for now, I'm in a pretty decent trade-off of good high society mixed with fairly low prices and great medical care. I don't think I made a mistake. So I did at first. I went to the Philippines and now I'm here. So I ain't saying it was a mistake over there, but for me, it's here. I think is a little better off, and for the medical reason is why I came, and that was a good reason to stay, I think. Well, those are just my thoughts, and I guess it's time for my swim. I'll give you a look around before I shut her down. Pretty quiet. When the tide's low, they all walk out by the water. Fishing boats. Here's the girl doing the yoga. I do yoga at home in my sort of stand on my head and things. She must do a vlog. I never seen it. Maybe one of you guys will find it someday. Probably in Thai. These guys down here with the cart, they're fishing. They got a gill net they run way out in the water. You see it's way out in the buoy. You guys probably can't see it. They got about 100-foot gill net, 50 fathoms, I'd say. And it's really small mesh, and they catch these small fish. But they just set it out and then pull it right back in, and they have plenty of fish, small fish. They get some bigger ones too. You can just come down. The Thais do anyway. There's a time they all come down and fish, like a fishing season. They do good with their cast nets. You get big bass, sea bass, and stuff too. There were a guy fishing last night, 4 or 5 of them down here with fishing poles. They cast them way out and they stuck them in the sand like deep sea fishermen. I don't know what they were going to catch. They got some big catfish I see around on the shore some days. Well, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.